Hey everybody, J.R. Dukes here. Appreciate you joining me. We are going to update as to what's going on in the Israel-Gaza war as of this particular moment. One thing that caught my eye is that Senator Rick Scott, the former governor of the great state of Florida, has just given an interview with Fox Business News, and he is also one of the head chairs of one of the intelligence departments, and he is coming out with an ominous warning stating unequivocally that right now we face a terrorism threat as great as if it was at the time of 9/11. So without further ado, we're going to take a quick look at this video and then talk about it.
A new ABC Ipsos poll finds more than half of American adults, meanwhile, say that the U.S. does have the responsibility to protect Israeli civilians. 54% disapprove of President Biden's handling of this Israel-Hamas war. 41% say that they approve. Joining me right now is Florida Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Senate Homeland Security and Armed Services Committees. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. What can you tell us about this war?
Well, I've traveled to Israel quite a bit. I was in Gaza, which is where all those babies were mutilated. So I think as we go through this, let's don't forget what happened here. Over 1,000 Israelis were killed, including, I think it's now 30 Americans. We've got American hostages, Israeli hostages. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Iran needs to be held accountable. Hamas needs to be completely obliterated. Anybody that wants to help Palestinians should open their border and accept these Palestinians. But this is going to be a very, very tough time. We've got to do everything we can to get hostages out, and we've got to do everything we can to help Israel defeat Hamas, and we got to make sure Iran gets held accountable. It's real simple. Qatar, they need to do something with regard to the Hamas leader in their country. This is a crisis that America's got to show up. Biden administration has been asleep at the wheel, doing the wrong thing, and we all have to understand this is dangerous. Our border's open. The same thing could happen here. Let's get active. Let's figure this out.
Well, I mean, Ted Cruz, your colleague from Texas, said that the risk of a terrorist attack in America is the highest it's been since the 2001 terrorist attacks, 9/11. Your thoughts? Absolutely.
I mean, we have a completely open border. We know there's people on the terrorist watch list that have come across we've caught. How many haven't we caught? And by the way, these people that are supporting Hamas baby killers in this country, right? I mean, that is wrong. It's against the law to provide financial support to Hamas. I hope anybody that supports Hamas is held accountable. But you're right. I mean, we have got to understand we have got an open border. We have a significant risk of a terror attack right here in our country.
Yeah. Well, President Biden is talking about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as his priority. He writes this on X: "We must not lose sight of the fact that the overwhelming majority of Palestinians had nothing to do with Hamas's appalling attacks and are suffering as a result of them."
Well, what the president forgets to say with that tweet, that X comment on social media, is sure, the regular people in Gaza may not have actually picked up weapons and went into Israel to kill all those people, but don't forget, back in 2007 and in another election since this time, it's these same people that overwhelmingly, I believe it was 70-85%, support Hamas and elected them to go to office and re-elected them to office. When you see the videos of just regular people, kids, this is children of people that live in Gaza. They're up, they're celebrating, they got weapons in the air. And what are they celebrating? They're celebrating the slaughter of all of these innocent Jews right across their border. How can you celebrate the beheadings of babies, the torturing of women, rape, slaughter, unspeakable crimes and acts that were perpetrated against these poor people? Israel has to respond. It has to respond vigorously. It has to take these people out. Hamas is evil. Hamas can no longer exist. And Israel has every right. It has a duty to defend itself and defend its people. And yes, it's just that simple. In relation to the terrorism issue, we need not make light of that. I think that is a real problem right now. We have a president who has continued to allow our borders to essentially be open. Anybody that wants to come in can get in. Anybody determined to come in will come in. And a lot of the people, if not all the people that have came into our country, are not really vetted in any meaningful way. They basically get their name, they take their fingerprints, ask them a few basic questions, no way to verify the questions or the answers that they're given, and they're given a court date and they're released. Now that should make you think, gee, I wonder who these people are they're letting in our country. I sure don't feel safe with that type of number. All right, let's get back into it.
This ABC Ipsos poll finds 54% of adults say that the U.S. does not bear responsibility in protecting Palestinian civilians, Senator. I haven't heard what he said about Israeli citizens, but of course, they're, hoping and praying for their lives after this attack from Hamas. But he's talking about the humanitarian crisis among Palestinians, Senator.
How about the over 1,000 people killed in Israel? How about the 30 Americans? How about the people held hostages? That's what we ought to be focused on. Look, anybody that dies in Gaza is a responsibility of Hamas. Hamas caused this. They're the ones who attacked the citizens in Israel. They're the ones that are using civilians as a shield. They're the ones that are preventing civilians from getting to the border with Egypt. Egypt is the one that's preventing them from crossing the border. Hamas is responsible for whatever happens in Gaza, not what Israel has to do. I mean, what?
He's exactly right. You hear a lot on the news, especially with the legacy news media. You hear them say all the time that Israel has to take certain precautions, that they have to be very careful. You even hear our own president, Joe Biden, starting to make that turn, as predicted, saying that Israel has to be extremely careful and we have to be considerate of the civilians. Well, guess what? The people that get killed, it's not the fault of Israel. It's the fault of Hamas. Hamas is the organization, the terrorist organization that is keeping people at home, refusing to let them go down the street, refusing to let them get into the South Gaza Strip. Any blood that spills, just like the blood that spilled inside of Israel, is on the hands of Hamas solely. And don't let anybody tell you any different. All right, let's get back into it.
They don't have a choice. They have to go in and completely annihilate Hamas, no different than we had to annihilate ISIS if we want to make sure we don't have another terrorist attack.
I know that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is having a hearing on former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew. He's going to become the ambassador to Israel if Biden gets his way. Your thoughts?
I'll do everything I can to prevent him from being the ambassador.
All right, we're going to stop it right there. That's pretty well what I wanted to talk about on this particular video. Folks, I don't want to cause an alarm. I don't want to scare anybody, but I do think a healthy dose of vigilance, a healthy dose of awareness of the situation that's going on right now can only benefit each and every one of us, especially if you have children or you have people dependent upon you. I think we're about to head into a serious war, maybe a world war. I hope to God I'm wrong, but make no mistake about it, it's not going to hurt for you to go ahead and have provisions on hand. We can't rely on the government for everything. It's a good idea to have some bottled drinking water, enough for you and the people in your household to last 2 or 3 weeks. Same thing for food that will not spoil, such as canned goods, these type of foods that will not spoil and that can stay in a can for a long period of time. That is the type of non-perishables that you need to have on hand. If you have medications that you're dependent on or relying on, just any type of necessity that you might need within a 1 month, 3 week to 1 month period of time, go ahead and get all that together. Why not? It's always a good idea to be safe than sorry. Even cash. What if the ATMs or other machines stop working? We have electricity problems. Why not have some cash on hand? God knows for sure that if the Biden administration keeps banning gasoline vehicles and keeps trying to put everything on the grid is not in good shape as it is right now. But I digress. I don't want to get off on another tangent. So all I'm saying, folks, is this. Be very careful. Be vigilant. Be careful where you go. Just have your eyes open. If you see something, as they say something. Call the police. Tell them something looks out of place and at least let them check on it. But you can definitely take care of you and yours and your family and make sure you have what you need. As I always say, my friends, I want you to always keep that free mind. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.